Hi, this is Kirby. It is Sunday, May 25th, 2025. And you guys, I'm still sort of shaken up about Virginia's passing, as I'm sure a lot of people still are. And so a couple of days ago, I had been able to get my hands on a short video of Virginia's funeral. I believe well, I'm not going to say a lot about it other than to say that I tried to upload it, or I had a friend try to upload it to my Instagram. And it's really it was a short snippet. And it was really like the memorial of celebrating her life, not like an actual funeral, but the memorial of her family celebrating her life. And for some odd reason, it wouldn't load on my Instagram. And it's really interesting because the news media didn't really know anything about it, but they did write about it apparently today. Um, but I don't think they know much about anything. So I'm just going to read to you what they wrote, and then I'm going to share some additional information with you. So what they wrote was a very short thing. Virginia's loved ones recently said their final goodbyes to her when she was cremated during a private funeral. Um, the West Australian, which was the first to report the news, said the service took place at the Pinaroo Valley Memorial Park in Padbury, Australia. An exact date for the funeral for Virginia, who was one of the most outspoken accusers of convicted sex offenders, J.E. and Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as Prince Andrew. And that's all they mentioned. So I want to insert here and say that Virginia named really in excess of 30 people who she had allegedly had interactions with. Basically, when I'm using that word, know that it means what she did with J.E. and what she did with Andrew, she did with these other people as well. So, but they only mention J.E., Glenn, and Prince Andrew. And they say that, none of this stuff was shared with the media. But they go on to say that family and friends gathered at the Australian cemetery a month after Virginia's unalivement by self. That's what they're saying. And I apologize for having to still use code at age 41 on now. For some reason, the dates for her unalivement, maybe because there's a 12 to 16-hour difference between, let's say, Australia and the United States, some portions of the United States. Some places reported as being April 24th. Other people reported as being April 25th. The newspaper is reporting it as April 24th, and they just did the follow up to Virginia being cremated, which I think is very suspicious. Um, and they write the 24th. So it could have been that she passed on the 24th. Now, what I knew about Virginia's funeral was I did manage to see a short video, as I said. I don't, mainstream media does not have that. And what I saw was her immediate family, not her children and not Robbie, but her immediate family doing like a private thing for her. And, with the butterfly that she always used as her symbol. And, sort of like a celebration of life. It was small, not a lot of people were there. Some people wore black, like if I were to go to a funeral, like when my brother passed away, clearly I wore black, but other people did not wear black. I found that to be a little surprising. Among the people that did not wear black was her sister-in-law, did not wear black. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it means something or not. However, apparently Virginia died without leaving a will, and there is a process going on in the courts to determine what happens with the money that she was able to get from not just the settlement with JE, which I believe happened in '09. And then after that, there was a settlement with Glenn, which happened in 2015. And then after that, there was an additional settlement from the compensation fund. And there was an additional settlement, sorry, with Prince Andrew. And then there was additional settlement uh, regarding the banks, JP Morgan Bank specifically. So all that money, while the media only focuses on the money she got from Andrew, they're not really factoring in all the other money that she obtained. We know that she was separated from Robbie and that he turned out to not have been the best partner for her, regrettably. Um, she had an unexplained broken neck at one time. She had her back um, operated on. She talked about it on her Instagram where she said she had a bionic back or something like that. And I you can hear it in my voice. I'm still not quite back to normal. It has taken, I mean, I've had my moments. It's been difficult. I mean, you know that I haven't been uploading here as frequently as I normally do. So what I think most of you have possibly seen me talk about Virginia and all of that in the wake of her death on Sean Atwood's show. Um, but only really as it pertained to um Victoria Harvey harassing her. But I've just been in such a deep state of mourning that I forgot one of the first things that Virginia reached out to me to have do for her back a while ago. And I'll leave a link below so you could see it. Uh, at the time, she had just sort of stepped forward. We know that her attorneys are very sus, right? And I've been talking a lot about her attorneys, and I've specifically been writing about them on my Substack. It just feels safer for me to do it there because clearly they were the cleanup crew and, gathered around Virginia in a very unusual manner. But despite the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell settled with her, she did have a friend of the family, specifically a woman by the name of Laura Goldman, who started to claim to the media that she was Ghislaine's spokesperson. And she started to, she went to the Sun, who started to print articles about her. Now, this infuriated Virginia immensely. And she asked me to write something to have this stop, to have what she wanted was for Ghislaine to step out of the shadows. This was before her arrest. I believe her arrest happened. Oh, gee, I'm thinking it may have happened in no, the 4th of July weekend of 2020. So this was before Ghislaine's arrest when nobody really knew where she was. So she had me write something that I'm going to read to you, and I'll leave a link below so you can see it. Because this woman, Laura Goldman, who in fact I interviewed after Ghislaine's trial, the podcast, which is almost 3 hours long, is on my YouTube channel. You can probably find it if you go there and poke around. But Virginia was very, she felt trolled. I mean, I guess that's the word to use, because suddenly, instead of Glenn talking to the media herself about Virginia, again, she was talking about Virginia in a bad light, and now she was doing it through Laura Goldman. Um, but she, well, I'm just going to read to you what one of the media people said about Goldman, but what I wrote about Laura, and really I wrote it to the Sun, News Corps, and the Murdoch family. In fact, I'm gonna keep what the Sun said later because they then claimed that Laura was lying, but frankly, Laura was not lying. Laura is a friend, a fa close family friend of Isabel Maxwell. I was interacting with her because Virginia was so upset with this that I was trying to figure out how to get this woman to shut up. And what I did is, which is what I normally do, is I go deep into their background and I discovered a lot of unsavory things about Laura and I posted them on my now gone Twitter account and discovered that she had been arrested and fled to Israel, all kinds of very nefarious things. And then I wrote an open letter. And I'm going to read the open letter that Virginia greenlit. Now, initially, Virginia was going to, it's my recollection. I could be wrong because I'm still, trying to piece together all of this stuff. But I remember Virginia was going to sign her letter, her name to this, and then David Boyce told her no, she can't do that. So what I did was I signed it. So I wrote, Dear Sun, News Corps, and the Murdoch family, your newspaper has published several articles about Ghislaine Maxwell, as told to you by her friend, and I did the word friend in quotes, Laura Goldman, that are unverified. The most recent was written by Sarah White entitled Ghislaine Maxwell Denies Victim's Family Surrogacy as Epstein's No Father Figure. So again, you can see that Ghislaine was disputing the fact that she was, I mean, it's clear because it's in court documents and testimony and depositions that Glenn and J.E. wanted her to have his child. So Glenn, through Laura Goldman, was disputing and saying again this was a lie. Now, Virginia was again feeling quite upset. She had won, years before this happened, a defamation lawsuit against Ghislaine. And what she really wanted was for Ghislaine to step forward herself and talk to her and not through an intermediary. And so, anyway, I'm going to continue with the thing that I wrote. It was an open letter. And then everything changed, to be frank. In these articles, you have allowed Laura Goldman, a dubious source with a colorful history, to discredit Virginia Giuffre and all of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's victims. According to court documents commencing in 1994 until 2002, Goldman engaged in a lengthy campaign of harassment, threats, and extortion against a former lover and members of his family. So I include information about her pleading guilty to stalking a billionaire who, by the way, committed self-unalivement about 2 years ago. Very unusual case, also connected to this. At some point, I will be doing a dive on that and explaining things more. So then I go on to include a lot of the information that I was able to dig up. And I said Goldman was arrested, entered a plea deal, and was sentenced to 5 years probation. And then while this was happening, a different court accused her of harassing a second man, and she pled guilty. However, I wrote that this did not deter her from continuing her crime spree. So when I included photos of old newspaper articles that I managed to collect. And again, I'm leaving a link below so that you guys can go see these. And then I continued to write. Um, This information is easily found in court documents. If your news organization does not properly vet your sources, it puts you and your reporters in the dangerous position of re-traumatizing Epstein and Maxwell's victims. Furthermore, after Goldman harassed and threatened to kill people, several people, actually, the way it happened was she threatened to kill, oh, I shouldn't use that word, unalive. These algorithms on these platforms is insane. The person who was her ex-lover, who then I'm gonna just not go into that, but she claimed she threatened to kill him and his two children, and not a nice thing to do, right? I mean, okay. So, and she did this as recently as, by the way, as 2000. And then she began extortion attempts, and Goldman demanded 9 to 10 million, in which she called war reparations from man number one. In response to these extortion attempts, an arrest warrant was issued. Instead of facing the music, Goldman fled to France and then to Israel. The FBI labeled Laura Goldman a fugitive. In 2009, after 9 years of living in Israel, the United States managed to extradite Goldman. She pled guilty to 2 counts of attempted extortion. We cannot allow a person such as Laura Goldman, who has a verifiable history of harassment, to continue to intentionally inflict emotional duress on Epstein and Maxwell's countless victims. Anything said by Ms. Goldman, as can be seen by the information presented herewith, is not trustworthy. As Laura Goldman is not trustworthy, your news organization cannot consider her a reliable source. Based on the above, we, the supporters of the many victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, respectfully request you speak directly with Ghislaine Maxwell. Sincerely. So then what I did was but you'll see that it's on my Medium account. I wrote the supporters of the children, now adults, who survived Epstein and Maxwell. And so, again, I'm leaving that below so that you can link to it. I do not know if I'm going to include this on my YouTube channel, but I did want to share it with you here on my Patreon. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being kind enough to understand that this was a period of mourning for me, and that I'm still reeling from the fact that she's gone. And I thank all of you for your words of support and for sticking with me all of these years, and for sticking with Virginia, and for not allowing the people who harassed her and her trolls and the online smearing of her, the continual smearing of her, and any one of us, frankly, who steps forward to out powerful people, for you guys, that you stood by all of us. All right. With that, I'm going to just say goodbye for now, and I will be resuming my normal schedule here with you guys. All right. Have a good day. Bye.